for you because so many people have asked. Okay, navigating can.
Just eat more to break a good sweat.
Somebody's got their microphone open whilst they're talking to somebody else. That sort of gets a little bit in the way. Just want to, yeah, what can be achieved? Um, Usually selling films, building festival play, lots of programmers there. Just wonder if anybody else here's got anything they want to achieve, they want to do in Cannes.
Yeah, network for service.
Networking for service, finding clients, very good. Anyone else?
Finding financing.
Yeah, finding finance. Quite often, it's not just the films that are showing in the official competition. There's a market, and there's also all the films yet to be made. So pitching, networking, ideally find people in advance through Sinando, through networking, who you can meet. Finding co-producers internationally. I hope everyone here doesn't just meet the people from their own country, but also meet with other countries, because that's really special, what I find about Cannes. And in order to do that, I suggest, as much as you can, try to find whatever through Sean's group in here, find recommendations about who might be the right people in the world, who might be able to co-produce or buy your film, and develop these relationships in advance. People email each other now all the time, sending through script, because a script, a meeting that you have in Cannes that's based on the script already, where somebody has read the script already, can take you so much further rather than using Cannes to make the first contact. You'll get a lot further. Yeah, explore the international film industry. I think it's also good for market testing, sometimes to take ideas there that are maybe not fully shaped, or also business models. There's always, the industry, particularly now, is changing quite drastically. Last year, there was this big AI beach by Microsoft. I wonder whether they're going to have it again. Would be interesting to see. Yeah, different people make money in different ways. Other people talk about digital first filmmaking. So I'm look for to find out about that, as well as just survival hacks, to talk to other people who, like me, have been around for decades, and feeling the pinch, and see what ideas they have, what strategies they have to change their business and stay afloat, and hopefully be back the following year. Always good, I think, when doing these kind of workshops, that you know a little bit about me. Very quickly, I've done loads of things in terms of the film craft, also writing, directing, but my main credits are really as a producer of documentaries, including BAFTA nominated, in terms of television, what some people call the mother of all box sets, meaning even before Lars von Trier and David Lynch with Twin Peaks started to use sort of cinematic storytelling techniques and filmmaking in order to tell serial stories with Rigget and Twin Peaks. One of the colleagues of Rainer Werner Fassbinder and Werner Herzog did that in Germany. His name is Edgar Reitz, and it's a series called Heimat, so I worked on that. Produced a few feature films, worked on interactive, and I'm consulting on film courses at the British Film Institute, and I'm working with a nifty outfit that does always really interesting pitch sessions in Cannes called Lago AI. So if you're sort of scouting the conference program, have a look when they announce that they do their pitch session, and be there early. That's always really interesting to see other people pitch. In terms of those clients and relationships, they're sort of all quite well-known brands. What I'm going to do, I support a lot of people I do work with through the Online Screenwriting Academy. That includes workshops that I do, the next one starting on the 8th of October, 100 pages in 10 weeks. I do consultancies, idea to production, often with screenwriters and writing directors, and also one-to-one coaching. So working with a lot of writers, a lot of them internationally, like people are here, and 30% of all the people who've done 100 pages in 10 weeks come back. So there were 3 or 4 in every workshops who I've worked with before. You can check that out on the website and email me if that's of interest. Now, coming to Cannes, for those who haven't been, this is what it looks like. So you see it's very good first tip to avoid meeting, particularly on Saturday or Sunday at noon in front of the Palais, because this is what it looks like. Sometimes it can get even worse in the evenings, particularly when there's a gala screening and everything is blocked off. So there's a lot of chaos, and hopefully I can give you a little guidance sort of through all that. Also, what you see, what this picture reminds us of: be careful. Because I've been going to Cannes on and off since 1995. That's how old I am. In 1995, I talked to Wim Wenders for half an hour at a party. So that's why I come back. So when it was, let's say, a bit more open. But I can also say, sort of, I've been there about 15 times, and every time I go, I hear of some story, somebody being robbed, being mugged. We had our car broken into in the first year. Other people had their flats broken into. So just want you to be careful, and particularly if you are a vulnerable person. It's maybe not so dependent on gender these days. If you're a vulnerable person, make sure if you are traveling late at night, avoid going on boats alone if you're invited to a boat party or so. It's certainly advisable. So if you're not used to sort of doing those kind of events, find ways how you can do it safe, because you don't want it to be a disappointment. Then just looking at the Cannes layout. I'm just showing here where the photograph was taking, the Palais des Festivals we were looking at. That's where the big competition screenings are happening, and also on certain regard next to it. And in that building are 20 other screening rooms for all the markets and other sort of sidebars, Cannes Classics and so on. And in the Riviera, a bit further south towards the there are a lot of stands from different film commissions, particularly sales agents and people who do provide services to the film industry, conferences as well. And then even more closer to the beach, that gray area, there are a lot of national pavilions. The only other important thing here is sort of a number of beaches where there are sort of cocktail receptions. If you or your company does a reception or a party, you can always say thanks by inviting me. There's some great classics are shown here. Cinema de la Plage in the evenings, and the director's fortnight is here at the Théâtre Crozet. And there are lots of hotels. If you've got meeting powerful people, they often have their meetings in these hotels or on the terrace of the hotels. And there's also the Grand Hotel terrace, where there's often in the evenings, throughout the night really, people are milling about. Further down, also the famous Petit Majestic, where people usually end up in the early morning hours. So all these are great networking opportunities. There are 3 sections to the festival: the main competition, the famous red carpet, where, as you see here, you need to have a proper festive dress, a dinner jacket and black and tie. It's a black tie event. So um, you can't get in unless you are dressed properly. But you can get into the repeat screenings if you're not so inclined. I mean, the competition gala screenings are also, of course, the most difficult to get into. But it's great fun when you go. I mean, I've done it a few times and enjoyed it. Then there are other sidebars of the festival, like the Directors Fortnight here that I've mentioned, and on certain regard, maybe not so, let's say, Oscar-worthy films, or some Oscar films have come through this, also worth looking. And then there's about 15 more sidebars, Cannes Classics and so on, Cannes Series, Immersive and so on. So there's a lot going on. So when you look behind the Palladi Festival, you see these national pavilions, Canada, Switzerland, all the European countries. There's also the American Independent pavilion there. Plus, there may be on the other beaches, there may be events that are privately organized here. This was a seminar done by Microsoft here, praising their wares that we done last year. So all that's definitely worth going to. And then you can also go in the Riviera. Look, I always find it worthwhile to walk through there and see how are films being marketed, what is going. Sometimes you can also take some one sheets. That's always be interesting how particular films are being marketed, giving me ideas for my pitches and so on. And maybe sometimes talk to people, sometimes somebody very influential, maybe just sitting there and tells you about how they're selling film, what works for them, and so on. So yeah, there's knowing about the market and getting to know people there. And this is actually here from the Largo pitch. You can see other people pitching, see how they do, get a few tricks. And there's conferences as well. It's the so-called Cannes Next section. There's already on the Cannes Marché on the website, they've just started to release events of the conference schedule, where you can find out what works, what doesn't work in the film industry, including here you see different commissioning patterns for different countries and so on. You can see this is sort of where the snake bites its tail. We learn here from this that film festivals are producers' favorite way to find out about new trends in the film industry. Any questions so far? Just wanted to give if anybody's sort of burning, because
I would have a question.
yes, please.
I will make so everybody can see me now. Hello, Robert. Thanks for having me, Carl, and everybody else. I would like to know, do you have a market badge, Carl?
I have a filmmaker badge because
I have one too. My question is because when you have a market badge, they give you the automatic a membership of Cinando. And if I want to meet people or if I want to research people in the market, especially like producers or distributors, because I have like two projects to share, can I find them in Cinando or can I find them on the Marché du Film website? And if, where, and how?
yes, you find them in Cinando. You can research where their office is. So it will tell you Riviera L6 or Marriott Hotel, 3rd floor, or something like that, or Rüde something. It will tell you that in Cinando. Of course, I mean, I usually find people when I need the Cinando, whose login I can borrow. Sometimes there's also terminals somewhere. So, there's always ways to get access to that. I mean, the really dumb thing is, is to Google the sales agent, to Google the company, and it might be on their website. Ta-da! So, That's why so far I haven't been limited. I may be less high on the. Of course, with a market badge, you're a bit more. Let's say more further up the pecking order for movies and so on. But I've always watched lots of interesting stuff, so I haven't felt the need so far. I don't know if anybody else here would like to.
Yes, actually, to follow up on that question, I'm considering getting a market badge. I attended 2 years ago on a publicist badge. It was, but I was wondering, can you sign up for Sinando separately without the market badge?
I believe so.
I'm sorry, I was gone for 2 or 3 minutes, and you. Sorry that I still interrupted.
We're just having another question. If you just come back in a minute.
Okay. Yes.
Natasha?
But it's related to what you were asking. As I said, I'm trying to decide if I should get the market badge. I'm really looking for producers, co-producers for a mini series, and I had the exact same question. Like, is it worth signing up for the badge, or should I just sign up for Sinando, or what do you recommend?
Well, everybody has got their, let's say, their own way. So that's why I'm don't want to be too prescriptive. I mean, as you can see, I'm just asking around. I'm meeting people I already know, and I'm asking for tips. If I'm asking somebody, do you know anybody who's got experience in that particular territory or in that particular genre, or something like that. So I use my networks rather than the data. I mean, of course, the thing about Sinando is if you write very influential producers or sales agent an email, they are likely to say, we're already busy. So you only can get really the mid tier. So that's why I'm maybe you write better emails on Sinando, and if you've got the email address of the decision maker, and you write a very good email, maybe you get somewhere with that. But I'm just settled in. Maybe it's because I'm old-fashioned, settle in with the personal recommendations, and maybe somebody writing me an introduction to that person, and then I find out where they are because I say, oh, by the way, where are you, or so. Or there's also information stands all over the film market where you can ask. Those people also have access to the terminals. So that's why I feel I'm asking myself the same question every year, and I always think, well, I did all right last time, and with those 300 euros, I can have a nice dinner. So
yeah, for sure. And by the way, does anyone know? Because I'm about to apply. Do you know how long it takes to get approved? How long they take to approve the registration for the market?
I need to throw that open to the group, because I always do my application first thing, because I know I'm not that high on the pecking order for the free filmmaker accreditation, and I'm always get it. And I'm always overjoyed when I see, oh, yes, they still like me. I'm getting in for free. So I also see it a little bit like a badge of honor, not to bow to the money making.
And can I ask as well, because I also have a film professional badge. So nobody is going to stop us from walking into the market and walking around and stuff, right?
No,
we can still access.
It hasn't happened to me. It's certainly those who've been shocked at the Berlin Film Festival, where on the key days, on the main weekend, you can't enter the Martin Gropiusbau. I haven't seen anything like that happening to me in Cannes. There is, of course, if you want to go to market screenings, there are, I mentioned already, in the Palais, there are about 20 screening rooms. There are more on the Riviera. There is the Olympia cinema, and there's other cinemas. They're all market screenings. But again, my experience is, if it is the market screening of a competition film that everybody wants to see, it doesn't matter at all what I've got hanging around my neck, because only buyers and top film festival programs will get in. Everybody else stays outside, no matter what accreditation they have. On the other hand, if it's a sort of smaller film that I'm interested in, maybe for creative reasons or because I follow the director and sort of would like to see it, and there's only 10 people in the screening room, usually the person at the door is very happy to have me. And so I'm regularly have seen market screenings without a market badge. I mean, I've even been pushed aside once, and if you're talking about these really buzzy films, there was a Korean film called Mother a few years ago where I was in the queue to be let in, sort of very close, and I thought I maybe get in. 2 minutes passed, and then I was pushed aside by Quentin Tarantino's bodyguards. And then Quentin brushed past me to be the last one, and then the film could start. So that's how crazy it gets. Yeah, that's why I'm doing very well without a market badge so far. But if you want to have certain assurances, if you want to have access to Zenodo and so on, yes, I might run into you maybe on the first day and ask you, hey, you've got a market badge. Can I have your Zenodo login, please? I need to look this up. So that's the price you have to pay. Robert, you also, don't know if we answered your question now, or Robert.
No, it's right, Robert. Yes. I guess it was answered. Thank you very much. The question was just like if I find them better on the website, Marché du Film, or is it really better if I want to like see how can I catch those people that I research them on Zenodo? And I guess that was answered that Zenodo is the better website for it.
Yeah, you'll find them. The other thing is, of course, how do you get attention? How do you get their time? That's a completely different, different thing. So that's why, I mean, something that people underestimate, let's say my secret weapon is LinkedIn. Because then if I'm, because I find it's the best way to get any C-level person. Anybody, any decision makers I want to get, they're usually much quicker on LinkedIn than on email. Plus, they can see that I'm also connected to some people that they know, so they feel, let's say, it feels less anonymous than sending them an email if they don't know me personally. So, and likewise, I mean, if you make friends with somebody assistant on LinkedIn or Instagram or something like this, I think those things can sometimes be, if you ring up their office before. I mean, the other thing is certainly the secret weapon is to ring the companies before and really, good old telephone. And to find out their plans, find out how you can get a project to them. Again, because rather than hitting the ground and then trying to arrange the meeting, maybe you can talk to somebody in development, maybe somebody's assistant. They can tell you whether they're looking for that kind of project or not. Out of it doesn't happen with every phone call, but if you make 20 phone calls, you will get some results. I promise you that. And you find out a bit more where these companies are, if they're taking on any new films, what their slate is, what they're looking for, even if you're lucky.
Yeah, but usually you don't get the phone number, you get email addresses, or as you said, maybe like where they're situated at the festival.
Yeah, but sometimes you get phone numbers, but also sometimes you can, that's why now you can also ring the landline of the office. You say, hey, I've seen your slate. I love these movies you do. I wonder if there's a way to touch base. Can I send, how do you work? Can I send an outline to somebody or a pitch deck? I mean, this is the arms race. You used to do pitch decks for the meetings. Now you do pitch decks in order to get the meetings. To sort of be part of the swing of things and that's usually conversations. And again, that's why I suggest picking up the phone. I've had that sometimes you pick up the phone to a board intern who will tell you everything about who does what, and when to reach them and so on. It can be sheer luck. All right. Any other questions?
Hi,
I-
Carl. So I'm noticing the login between the Marché and the festival are separate.
yeah.
It's so getting accreditation for the festival does not exactly mean you have the accreditation for the Marché. I'm a bit confused about because I was looking at Cannes Next to try to register or see how to.
I mean, Cannes Next, I've always just sort of walked in. I've seen there are
Oh, okay.
some events where they say they want to see a market badge. Maybe that means to me, maybe I just need to be there 15 minutes early, or, I don't know. Maybe I just need to run past very quickly. Maybe I just need to come 10 minutes late. I don't know. You sort of try different things and so on. With some of those, some events, when I know it's invitation only, I know now is the time to send an email to somebody to say, hey, I see, I'm really interested in your invitation only event.
I know something. I could answer that question as well a little bit because first I had a festival badge as well, which was only like the artist festival badge, and now I have a market badge. So it really is, as Cara said, there is like a whole variety. Like usually with the festival badge, you can walk around everywhere, and of course you can get into the market and walk around into the market. But then sometimes in the market they have like different exhibition boxes or something like that, where they have like special events, and then usually it says with a market badge, but that's only known to me as a market badge holder. But when I go onto the Marché du Film website, because there are two websites, there's the festival website and the Marché du Film website. And if you have a market badge, you have access to that website, and then they give you sometimes events. As Carl said, there is like a panel event, and some of them are only for market badge holders. And then there are of course some events where you have to have an invitation, and then it doesn't matter whether you have a market badge or a festival badge.
Yeah, but also sometimes I know the organizers of a market badge only event, so then I'm sending them an email and I say, you're doing this event. Sometimes it works and so on. I mean, who knows when actually the event happens, whether I'm actually there or whether I'm actually going for lunch with somebody or so. So, that's the other thing about Cannes. You sort of make a plan and make another plan. Okay. Let's move on. I mean, coming to that sort of bit softer side, now having sort of explored the physical side, Terry Gilliam put it quite nicely what the opportunity is, can be useful because the sun and the wine and everybody being away from their offices and so becoming human and vulnerable. Sort of that really allows us to catch people who are usually very, very difficult to get hold of. And as I like to have a sort of varied references, this definition of luck as opportunity meets preparation. I know various filmmakers have claimed it, but it's actually Seneca came up for that. So I've been sort of exploring how we make our luck through preparation to be ready for the opportunity. Has been sort of occupying my networking science for a while. And in the background, you've got the snakes and ladders sort of as an image of luck going up and down. The interesting thing I found through one of my workshop participants is that because I used the sort of the standard British snakes and ladders idea of board game, is that it's actually invented in India 600 years ago, and you see there the snakes and ladders, but you also see sort of little sayings in every square which have to do with you doing good things. So it also adds you have luck if you do good things. If you build good karma, you're also going to be more lucky. So I thought that gives another dimension to that. Just a little bit sort of regarding the networking, because it's really intense in Cannes, and I sort of worked through that with a coach who was supporting me for a while, and we found that these relationships really work with people who know and like and trust us. So the thing is, how do we build that trust? And how can we not be, because with so many distractions, particularly in Cannes, be too short-termist, be too quick to make judgment and so on, but really build these relationships. So it's just me sort of trying to nudge you to work more on long-term relationships between festivals, sort of be in touch and follow up, of course, talk about more than one project. That's why it's important to have more than one project, to see everybody's variety and see if everybody is happy to invest the time into this relationships. And then very important, if you make the investment to go spend money and so on, make sure you get you also follow up afterwards and arrange Zoom meetings and so on in order for this to take off. I actually did some real research in Cannes a few years ago, and sort of there's one key outcome. We all know it's all learning by doing, about who you know, and reflecting on your mistakes. So my question was to all these people, as an accomplished film professional, how do you deliver the skills and insights you need for your next project? And that's really sort of what I want to give you in terms of soft skills. Her answer depends very much what you want to find out, and she thinks about how do I many steps away am I away from what I want to find out about. How many people do I have to go through, like stepping stones, and then what I just suggested, talk to people directly. Who can they connect you with? Who's good at this? And this actually overlaps with what the UN Development Program, UNDP, suggests people do, is to do these stepping stones. Because in networking, it's not the strong ties that give you results. Strong ties have much less impact on future success than the weak ties, because there are people who might be more open, maybe they're less worried about nepotism and so on. So that's really something that I suggest in order to make Cannes work, to draw these three circles, put a cup of coffee in the middle of it before you go, and really think about who is on these circles, sort of, that you can reach out to, that you want to speak to, who can introduce you to somebody. I think that's definitely something you can benefit from in order to set things up before you go. I don't know, we've already talked a little bit about research. So, there are daily editions of Screen International and Variety. That's how I always try to at least start my professional day, having a cup of coffee and going through the trades. There's are printed editions that are available everywhere. But also think about organizations, as the European Observatory is doing a lot of business data events. That can be very useful if you're targeting co-production with Ireland or Spain or something like this, to find out what works in that market, and look into co-production. And this is sort of my one pitching slide here, that I always give people, sort of as part of training. I do a tip that's 2,300 years old, when Aristotle looked at the popularity of plays in ancient Athens. And so sort of the advice that he came up with, what is a good play? The plot should be constructed in such a way that even without seeing it, so if neighbors talk to each other, if you meet people in the market, or I've seen that play yesterday, even without seeing, anyone who hears the events which occur shudders and feels pity at what happened. So, that's sort of that. I think that's the sort of acid test I would like you to give your pitch, or maybe you're already what I see. I've always done a bit of pitch preparation, sort of when I'm on the plane. I never took it that seriously until I was incubator at Oxford University Information. I saw these MBA types walking up and down the corridor before they had their 1 minute or 3 minute pitches in front of major investors and executives. So that's certainly worthwhile. Yeah, my other mission is about you working internationally, getting away a little bit from your own territory, and think about, why might that be? Maybe you can have something in the script. Gabriela, can you switch off your mic, please? Can you hear me, Gabriela, or I have to do it? Mute. Okay. Quite often, people can't really find all their budget in their own territory or near them. So maybe there are other sources of finance, and maybe there's also language area. So for all those, it's really good. I recommend that's already on the internet, where you can book in Focus 2025. That's sort of that database of certainly European country doing an event on Friday the 16th. And they do also a publication that then gives you data about different countries and so on. And they also sort of do reports. Have a look on their website, particularly which country has got is doing mostly their own films, or is open to do co-production. So then finally, let's say the guiding star for these international filmmaking that I use is a quote from the Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore. My true home is there, where from my surroundings comes the call to bring out the best I may have, for that inevitably leads me to the touch of the universal. So that's something I hope that you can find sort of in your scripts, and something that I do in my workshops and in my coaching, particularly because in a way that Indian poet anticipated something, that how Netflix defines success, a series that travel as a result of high production values, topical narrative content, universality, and local authenticity. So that's sort of what I got. I can probably now stop the share, as well as the where am I?